Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
We're at round 5 of the Formula Vee Australia E-Series, and we're delighted to be broadcasting it to you live here on SimSpeed TV tonight. Our tour of Australia's greatest racetracks continues. From Oran Park last round, we find ourselves at Sandown International Motor Raceway for a double dose of horsepower, is how they like to do it around this place, and certainly it's a circuit that could deliver up some interesting racing, very well known in Australian motorsport circles for that long pit straight into a couple of corners, into that long back straight, into a couple of corners, not dissimilar to Symmons Plains in a way that you think of it as two straights joined together by a handful of corners, and in these Formula Vs, slipstreaming is key. The racing is always close, and we hope it'll be entertaining tonight. David Haynes here with Scott Rankin and Jay Kennedy producing. Scott, it's been so entertaining from the very, very first race at Phillip Island. We've been to many great circuits since. Now it's Sandown.
Yeah, and this series, I can't recall a race whereby it hasn't been too wide through most of the lap, where it hasn't been action-packed through most of the lap. And now we get to bring it to the home of horsepower in Australia, and one of the, unfortunately, tracks that we're going to say farewell to, I think, in the real world in a few years' time, which is unfortunate, but such is progress. Sandown, down in the southern part of Australia. Beautiful, beautiful Melbourne. What a lovely little area it is. Unfortunately, starting to get penned in from all sides by all of those homes you see right the way around. They're letting us stay here in real life for a little bit longer. Enjoy it whilst you can, ladies and gentlemen. Springvale is the suburb, and originally opened in 1962, Dave, but this layout since 1984, which is, well, why it permeates the memories of so many people. 3.10 kilometers, and the anti-clockwise direction with 13 complete corners. I mean, it is just, it's such an icon on the Australian endurance calendar. Like, it feels wrong when we don't go to Sandown one year. Those COVID years, it didn't feel V8 supercars to not be here.
Great circuit, also very, very well patronised by the State Series in Victoria, which is, of course, where you might find a lot of Formula Vs at the state level around this country. And that's what's so great about this iRacing series, that we've got long time and recent Formula V competitors who, you know, might not see each other as they're, you know, racing in Queensland, racing in Victoria, racing in New South Wales and WA. But here on iRacing, they can all compete against each other and see where they sort of stack up and have a great time with it. So Sandown, a great circuit to have, recently scanned on iRacing, so it does look pretty all the way around. Here is where we stand in the championship, though. After 4 rounds and 12 races, John Merritt up front from Glenn Riddle, Jason Cutts, Alexander Newton, Lee Partridge, Cameron Edwards, Trevor Hearn, Kyle Ridley, Reese Gardner, and Liam Caplice as our top 10. Certainly still a handful of drivers in it at that top end, with Merritt, Riddle, Cutts, Newton, and Lee Partridge still as well. Very competitive, and no one has really had a perfect round so far this season. It's so tough to do with the big fields, the 3-race format, and that invert that we get in towards race number 2 as well.
Yeah, and that invert it's really I think it's the culture of the series now, and it creates unexpected situations. And I think the big thing we've actually seen, you can sit back and you can say, yeah, there's probably been a lot of chaos in the races, a lot of chaos in the series so far. That's just Formula V, to be perfectly honest with you. That's just part, you know, you've got to be looking for where the window is. We all know the famous saying, you know, if you're not going for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver. And I think Formula V's is one of those series that really offsets that saying and steps it back a little bit and reintroduces it to, is that gap going to close? Can I put my wheel down there safely and make sure that I make it out the other side? And I think reverse grids really have taught us through the Formula V series by watching along from all aspects. It's been about racecraft. I think John Merritt, rightfully so, is the series leader because there's been risks that he could have taken and didn't. And that's the difference in separating. Yeah, he's had pace. Yeah, he's been up the front. But there are so many other drivers when you look up and down this field. This is just your practice timing, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Not into qualifying as of yet. But when you look up and down the field, there are a number of drivers who have been as fast, if not faster than John Merritt at a number of rounds. I think John Merritt has been the best in terms of racecraft and consistency. Yes, he still had an off round. That's racing, though. You get into these things, it's going to get wild, it's going to get woolly, and something's going to go wrong. But John has braved those waters. He's gone down the end of Dandenong Road, maybe a touch too deep, but still managed to pull the car up and come out the other side. That's why he's on top at this point in time.
Scott, are you a Victorian?
I was for a period of about 3 years. I wasn't the
Okay.
whole time. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, my parents' first apartment they bought when they got married in 1980 something was in Springvale South, and kind of grew up vaguely around these bits, and they never took me to Sandown, and I've never been. So
No, me neither.
that's
I
rude.
lived not too far from this circuit. I used to drive by it on the semi-regular. I never actually went for it for the whole period I was in living in Melbourne. But now that I'm just on the other side of the border. I moved in last week, just the week before. Yeah, so I'm going to be making more trips down to Melbourne. And now that I've gotten so far and deep into racing, this is one of the places I've been. It's sort of on the cards, but Sandown's actually more interesting to me.
Definitely seems like a great place to come to for, I mean, the 500, but also some of the smaller events. You get the idea. You can see a lot of the track from the grandstands around, and a lot of club racing, state racing, ARG racing comes here. Although I don't know if they even know what date they're going to be here.
There is a whole bunch of sort of bring your own road cars and go racing. There was a guy I was chatting to. I think I bought something off of him. It might have actually been I sold a Magic the Gathering collection to him. And when he bought it, he was like, "Oh, what are you going to use the money for?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to be buying some sim racing pedals." "Oh, here's my car. This is what I go racing. I go racing in Sandown all the time." We actually got talking about Suzuki Swifts, and he goes racing down there and does endurance series at Sandown. And now I'm like really interested to go down and watch that sort of stuff, because it's entry level stuff. I mean, you're past that now, Dave. You're celebrity status race car driver now. You know, you're not as interested in these entry level events. That's something I want to get into in the very near future, and that's why I think Sandown's sort of approachable for me and somewhere I want to go to entry level, because, well, it's only got 13 corners, and, well, I like oval racing, and that's only got 4 corners, so this is the closest thing.
We're going to have a great look at some of our drivers as well throughout tonight's 3 races. We're in practice right now, as the timing column tells you, but then we'll get into qualifying that sets the grid for race number 1. Which then sets the grid with an invert for race number 2, which then sets the grid for race number 3. But you've got Matthew Walker there. He's got a lot going on in shot, and we'll give ourselves a little bit of time before we digest all of that. But also got Patrick Harding there, and Victorian flag marshalling team banner up there, which is cool. So let's digest then on that. That looked like he's doing world's greatest shave at some point. He's got a teddy bear that's big, but not as big as my bear. And he's also got what appears to be a 3D printed wheel on his base there. The dimensions and style do look like they really match what you'd find in any of the Formula V's out there.
He knows he's on screen. Surely he knows he's on screen at this point, because he's had a look at it. Who was it the other week that had the Audi shirt? No, I think that was V8 Veterans that they had the Audi shirt the week after Bathurst stuffed down their top. They were trying to find a way to put this Audi flag somewhere in there.
No, I think that was Walker as well.
It was Walker? Yeah, that's what I thought, because the face was familiar. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching the Formula Vee Australia broadcast and you know somebody that's competing in there, your job is to get them a webcam, get them on our Zoom feed for the next round, and make sure that there's something iconic, funny, or otherwise interesting in their photo. The best entry gets $1 in iRacing credit from me. That way it's a competition.
I just hope he's shaving his own face and not the bear.
Maybe he's shaving the bear, the backside of the bear, to put it on his own face. You know, you've only got to use one side of the bear now.
My brain hurts trying to think too much about that. Certainly, though, what we're expecting to see in our racing coming up is the long pit straight, the long back straight, brings the cars together, keeps packs together. You've got to be a little clever about then how you make your moves when you decide to attack. It's 15-minute races, the lot of them, and looking at these lap times, that's going to be probably 11 laps. I'd say 15 minutes is 11 laps if we're just under 90 seconds, because of course we get that remainder. The time will expire while they're on the last lap.
Wait, I thought you said you didn't want to think very hard, Dave, and that your brain was hurting earlier, and you were the one doing.
I wanted to think about racing, man.
Yeah, it's racing. We've all got that natural brain for it. It's a little bit different. Look, Jay, stop it! Stop it with the scenic shots around here. Now, see, you see what we've done is we've both started talking about how we both want to go to this racetrack, and we both really, we've been in and around it, never actually been to the racetrack. Jay is going to bother us with these great shots all night long. That's what you've done, Dave. I mean, Jay would have done it anyway. Now,
and it's one of the Frog Leap juiced machines, of which there's a handful. There's also a lot of those pulse tuning Echuca Toyota cars out there as well. And then a big handful of drivers representing the liveries and the paint scheme that you would see out at the local tracks in Formula V competition.
I'm waiting for the driver that goes out there, and their number's normally like 27 or so for example, we've got Carl Ridley, who's the 27, right? And then we've got Nathan Coburn. So I've actually done this with motocross racing, actually. You see it quite a lot. You go to a new track for the first time, and somebody else has got your number, so quickly out comes the gaffer tape, and now you've got to put, what number have I got to put in front of it? Well, there's already a 127, so we can't do 1, so maybe we can do the 7. We'll scratch the 7 in. Oh, there's already a 727. Now we're going to try and make it into a 9, or what number are we going to run this time out? I want to see somebody next week that's gaffer taped one of their numbers, because that is club level
racing. You can turn a 2 into an 8 with a little bit of skill.
Mate, there's no skill involved in gaffer tape numbers. I think now you are thinking it through too much.
Well, everyone's on their outlap right now before they get into their 2 qualifying laps. Well, once again, the normal method of attack is to set a banker lap and then push all out on the second lap. Is that what we are going to see? Shortly, we shall find out. Many drivers starting the first of their qualifying laps. What you don't want to do is throw away that first lap, because then the pressure is on you for that second lap, and you've either got to take it easy and qualify a little bit further back, or put it all on the line and risk having no qualifying time whatsoever. So it's about how much risk you want to take breaking into this first corner.
Yeah, there's another factor in that as well. It generally takes just over a lap for the tyres to come up. So this braking zone right here, tyres, they're definitely better. They're not stone cold like they were on your out lap when you're trying to put some pressure and whatnot in them, but they're not quite there yet. By the tail end of this lap, they're going to start feeling quite good. So what you actually want to do, and generally quite a very NASCAR strat, you can see it a lot for drivers that are very keyed in and very clued to what's going on as well. And they'll actually back up the entry to the last corner so they can pick up the throttle early, carry a little bit momentum, but they'll take a worse line. Their lap time on that first lap won't be quite as good, but that allows them to get a real hot go on for their second lap, where the tires are up to temperature, where the pressures are right there. It's an interesting way to go about it. Obviously, if you know that your first lap is quite good, you've nailed all your zones, you won't actually do that. You'll sacrifice the second lap just to get that first lap time in. But it's something that anyone who's watching their deltas, watch their timing screens, it's a feature of iRacing, will certainly be well clued on to.
First times coming in, Lee Partridge was at the top. Brody Watts goes to the top. And you're going to see that all the times start to come in, and then it's about, have you set up well for that second lap? Have you got a little in reserve? Are there some curbs you're going to get a little closer to? Some corners you might carry a little bit more speed. Those are some of those curbs you've got to think about. Will we attack them or will we leave them? And Brody Watts has decided your best course of attack in a low-slung Formula V is to get close, but not over the top of those curbs. In a GT car, in a supercar, in a touring car, you would clobber all over them. But these Vs sit very low. They get very disturbed by the curbs, and their short wheelbase can flick them around very, very quickly. I saw Sean McKenzie's toolbox. He's got a square block of wood that is 50 mil in every direction, and you've got to be able to fit that under, because that's your minimum ride height at the front. But it sure looks like less than that from some of these angles here.
You've been doing your research, so I've heard, Dave, and some
yeah, I've been absorbing the Formula V knowledge by osmosis of getting gearbox oil in my fingers and all in my little paws and fingerprints.
All right. So we're going to leverage that here tonight, Dave. I hear a little birdie has told me that it was more than just getting gearbox oil in your fingers. That perhaps you were to blame. Maybe you were a little bit behind, or perhaps the presence of David Haynes led to some gearbox oil making its way to the track. Look,
No, if
I
anything,
wasn't there.
If anything, I'm a positive influence on Queensland Formula V drivers.
You surely didn't undo the cap a little bit looser. Maybe leave the cap sitting on top of the toolbox. That wasn't you. That was somebody else.
No, I'm innocent in any things.
You've got to tell a story now, Dave. You know how this works. Somebody
No,
leads
I
you
absolutely don't. I absolutely don't.
See, ladies and gentlemen, Dave told me a lovely, lovely story about the time he spent with our good friends up at Formula Vee in Queensland Raceway, and a little incident that happened at a recent cup round. And I received a lovely photo of David Haynes sitting in the cockpit of a Formula Vee at Queensland Raceway. Now, I believe something that was said in the very first round, if we throw it all the way back to the other side of Christmas, was that you let David Haynes sit in your race car and drive it. And drive it's the key factor, apparently. It's more likely to breed success. So for anyone out there, David Haynes is hireable for events. We do let him out of the SimSpeed Combox occasionally, not very often. We try and limit that. He gets a little bit overwhelmed. He gets frisky. You can't let him out all the time. Obviously, it's not good for his health. But occasionally, we will hire him out. So if you're looking for round victories as a critical club round that you need to win, David Haynes is more than willing to go and sit in your simulator, in your real life racing rig, and talk cars with you, and then drive cars with you, and that breeds success. Maybe Ray Oliver, it could be 2 spots further ahead on his qualifying performance if he let David Haynes sit in his Formula V. Who knows?
Almost assuredly. Now, almost everyone's taken their second qualifying lap, and it's John Merritt who sits up top, less than a tenth of a second, 800ths of a second short in second place. Ray Oliver is out on the track, but has he already used up all of his lap quota? I feel like he has, and he's regardless not improving.
Yes,
There's a cat. There's a cat. Is he going to shave the cat too? Hello, cat. Oh.
That's it. Matthew Walker is now a new favorite driver. I've actually seen. Is this the new Nelson? Nelson, the sim racing dog from was it Rick Kelly? No, it wasn't Rick Kelly. It was Nick Percat. It was Nick Percat. Yes. Well, this is Nick Percat. The cat.
There isn't collar on that cat too. I wonder if that's one that stick like an Apple AirTag on your cat collar. see what it gets up to. You know exactly where it is right now. It's inside and maybe a little cold. 2 minutes left in this session, and there are few drivers remaining on track. Few drivers without a qualifying time, but Phil Gardner is one of them. You've also got Kyle Ridley, Mike Pepper, Jonathan Scarey out on track with no times yet.
So Kyle Ridley either picked up a... So there are 2 ways to cancel your qualifying efforts. One is to get an off track on both your laps. Kyle Ridley's either done that, or he's received a penalty getting out from the pit lane, which will invalidate both the lap attempts that you put in. So he's actually using this as extended practice sessions. Both of his laps have been invalidated. Not sure on the reasoning behind them, but he has invalidated both laps, and that means he is starting from the rear of the grid.
The sectors counting for Pepper, or not. They look like they're counting for Gardner, but he might have had an off track in the first one.
I can also tell you that Jason Cutts didn't get a qualifying lap in either. Now, I'm wondering whether or not for those of you who are watching along at home and aren't into the iRacing specifics. So iRacing is checking, in the coding, it's checking for one of a few different things that will invalidate a qualifying lap, specifically within a qualifying session. Number 1 is contact with a surface, and number 2 is contact with a grass surface outside of a track limit. So you can get away with a little bit of it, depending upon some tracks. Some tracks are a little bit more strict than others. I have a feeling because there's a few drivers I've seen with those qualifying laps invalidated now. I'm wondering whether or not it's the car bottoming out on the curbing surface and it's triggering a 0x incident point, which will negate the qualifying lap. Because Jason Cutts just said he wasn't sure why his second lap didn't count. He knew why the first one did, but the second lap didn't count. So there's a few things. The other one could be a internet connection related issue, but there you go. There's a few little iRacing quirks that, yeah. I wonder, that now has me curious whether or not it was actually the curving. Because theoretically, it's a potential, and I don't know enough about the coding to be able to sit down and say I'm an absolute expert, and I definitely can, but it's a potential. There you go.
Well, either way, there's a handful of drivers that we've seen perform strongly in previous rounds who will be starting at the very back of the grid in this first of 3 races. Up front, it's John Merritt on pole from Brodie Watts. Then we've got Ray Oliver, Lee Partridge, Sam Chapman and Cam Edwards. Many of our championship contenders are starting up the front in the first rows. Sean McKenzie then in 7th from Trevor Hearn, Liam Caplice, France Estabauer, Will Twining and Dylan Thomas as the top 12.
Throwing it further back, we're going to have Tony Baker in 13th out of Victoria. Andrew Gamo off alongside of him. James Nesbitt and Mick Fisher are going to rake row number 8. Alex McDonald and Damien Spinks, 1.5 seconds back in P18. And Nathaniel Coburn, Alex Newton, Hayden Slattery, Dean Hunt, Matthew Walker, and Brendan Nealon. We'll throw it back one further page and get deeper in the field with Drew Beecham, Corey Horder, Patrick Harding, Neville Bettridge, Ben Breyer, and Kyle Ridley, all the way back to P30.
Drivers with no qualifying times here, like Mike Pepper, like Etten Filippi, Jason Cutts. And Filippi performed really well at the high speeds of Watkins Glen, and it's going to make things very interesting as we get ready to go racing. You see a little bit of that air-cooled smoke up in the sky. A standing start is difficult in these machines. There's not really any assist. It's about your reaction time. It's about where you find the bite point on the clutch and then get up out of first gear into second gear and then very quickly up into third as well. Moderate run from this starting position down towards turn 1, which is always difficult on the cold tyres. For race 1 of 3, they're ready to go. The green flag drops, and on the front row where they are level in a perfectly too wide standing start, the inside line gets a surprisingly good getaway, and second place dropping back almost immediately, rapidly swamped. Curbs can be deadly on the first lap on those cold tyres as well in close pack formation. Smoke in the air as our leaders look to get single file through the difficult chicane, but immediately it's caused a big pile up. People still seeing it and driving straight into it. Well, I'd cut the grass.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a wall of smoke. That'd be a difficult one. Like, I would be cutting the grass for sure, because that's, you guaranteed. You think there's a way through there, but then the problem is you've got a hill there and cold tires, grass-based surface. Yeah, that's difficult to drive on over, and there was a few guys called out by that.
Well, you're looking at a top 8 breakaway then on this opening lap as they look to settle into their rhythm, continue to build confidence and build tyre temperature. Track is 33 Celsius, so it's a nice warm sort of middle of the road track temperature. John Merritt has converted his pole position very well. Here's where it all starts. I mean, back from the runoff. And McKenzie gets a little bit of a tap from behind, and then once there's 2 cars stopped in the middle of the corner, it just keeps going.
There was a few cars that drove straight through the middle of that one that actually managed to dodge it. So they were using their brains and just driving at a much slower pace. I mean, it's difficult because there's going to be no safety cars in this format. So the drivers are trying to get themselves further forwards and trying to make something going on. Oh, my word, Sean McKenzie. Maybe David Haynes isn't a lucky charm. Maybe he's an unlucky charm.
And there's a mistake in our lead pack from Cam Edwards. Up front, Lee Partridge has taken the race lead away from John Merritt. The two of them almost looking to swap back and forth on the 2 long straights of Sandown Raceway. Yeah, And immediately here, John Merritt looks to swap back into the lead. Partridge will be smart enough to immediately drop back in line in second place, try to hold station, try to keep this pack going. 4-car breakaway with Oliver and Watts behind them. And Liam Caplice in fifth has dropped a little further back, and I think there's some other cars in that gap that dropped back as well. Looking like the top 4 are your strongest drivers early goings in this first of 3 races.
Yeah, just watch them weave around, watch them looking for that little bit of an advantage. Ray Oliver's doing a lot better than he normally would. The 68 backwards now, coming down the end of Dandenong Road and underneath the bridge. So now there's a few cars that are a little bit broken up. I'll tell you what, John Merritt is desperately trying to break that toe, and there's cars returning from pit lane as well. It's a desperate little bit of a squabble down under the entrance of turn 1, and Oliver's going to go the long way here, Dave.
Yeah, slightly defensive line there from Merritt works out. They get to the chicane at 2 and 3, and again, everyone looking to stay off of those curbs. They're happy to use a little bit of the exit curbing here at 4 to maximise their run onto the back straight. That car is rejoined right in behind the lead train, but it's working out reasonably well for Merritt at the moment. Looking to actually, with 7/10 to his name, break away from Partridge if he can. I'm not confident it's doing anything for him.
That's some aggressive weaving on the straight now. I'm taking that's probably not going to be looked too kindly upon, because that's sort of taking it up from a basic level to an excessive level, just with the angles he's creating across the straight. He's lazily drifting from left to right. Not too upset about that because he's consistent, but that's really hard to pick where he's going from John Merritt. But he's got a championship he's got to fight for. That's the level it's coming to now. He's really starting to get serious about it.
Top of the screen, your 4-way battle for the lead. Bottom of the screen for 6th place, Andrew Gamo, Sam Chapman, and Cameron Edwards. Merritt still absolutely weaving them every single way up and down the pit straight. Surely he's going to have to give up on that eventually. Once Partridge gets close enough, it moves from breaking the toe into blocking, and that is even more harshly frowned upon. So what does Partridge opt to do? He opts to roll out of the throttle, approaching the braking zone, just stay in line behind Merritt. That brings Watts and Oliver even closer into the picture. Bottom of screen, Chapman goes out wide. Gamo and Edwards look to slot on through. Gamo pulls it off.
Yeah, so the car that's slotted back into this lead pack of what is effectively now 5 cars is Alexander Newton. He's at 1 lap down. He's about 47 seconds off of the car ahead of him. So it's a fair distance. His best hope's just to try and attach himself to the back end of this one, and he'll see what he can do.
Watts is going to come through into 2nd place. He pulls the slipstream off John Merritt, follows that line down and into 2nd place. Nothing to cover your top 4. To work their way through the S's and slow it down in the final sector. Chapman has gotten through up into 6th, putting the yellow and red car of Gamo back into 7th. Cam Edwards very close with them. These are cars that do not really behave predictably over those curves. They don't seem to like them. For onto the pit straight, and Merritt immediately into the weave. It doesn't matter who's following him in 2nd or 3rd. He looks to break the toe.
Yeah, and this is where I feel like race control is going to step up. They're going to try and do something. It's difficult because they're obviously still trying to break down everything that happened on lap number 1 and everything that's gone on ever since. So that's where their focus is trying to unravel. And if you have a look at the stuff on lap 1, it's very, very difficult to unravel. No one's called it in yet. Lee Partridge hasn't said a word. Brody Watts hasn't said a word. Ray Oliver, none of those guys have said a word. So they might be biding their time. Look, there's a little bit of psychology that comes along with it as well. Do I want to call it now, or do I want to throw him off his game later on? Or is that the move that I'll be using to defend against him should I get around him? So lots of different decision processes going through those guys' mind. Nathan Coburn not having a great night off the track yet again.
Up front, doesn't appear to be much in the way of teammates between our top 4. It's 4 drivers on their own in this pack, trying to work their own way. Merritt, I'm not convinced the weaving has done a whole lot for him, because 2nd, 3rd, 4th are all still right with him, immediately behind him, within a car length as we come into the final 2 corners here. All of them staying right-hand side to open up the final corner, open up their run onto the long hit straight here. Whichever way Merritt goes, it's now too close. Partridge can pick his choice, and you can't move now. You'd be blocking, you'd be dooring your opponent. Third place has a great run though, and Brody Watts is now going to look to the outside. Might have been able to go 3 wide down the inside if he wanted to there. 2 wide for our leaders, and the run around the outside appears to have worked out well for Partridge.
Yeah, so he's got there, he just compromised John Merritt enough so that John Merritt lost a little bit of momentum, and now he's got control of his pack. What's his defensive tactic? I really like the way that Ray Oliver's going about this, though, at the back end of this pack. He's just watching. He's lurking beneath the water. He's just watching what's going on ahead of him. Will he strike? Well, I mean, that's the decision he's got to make, isn't it? Trevor Hearn leads the battle. He is back 6.7 or so, 7 seconds back off of the lead of the race. So he is a fair way back from Trevor Hearn's perspective and running on his own. Then you've got this little pack from 6 to 8. So that's why it wasn't a battle for 5th, it's a battle for 6th, is because Trevor Hearn's filling that little gap.
Merritt goes back through into the lead of the race at the Dandenong Road end of the circuit, but then we're exactly where we were this time a lap ago, with Partridge within a car length right at his gearbox. Swapping again in that 7th, 8th, 9th battle between Chapman, Gamo and Edwards. And it's looking like lap 4 all over again, and a group for the lead. This happened inside of the top 10. Liam Caplice and Mick Fisher.
Just a late call to go down the inside, or what's going to happen here? I mean, down the inside from, I believe it's Fisher down the inside, and complete. Oh, he's just lost the rear.
Has Caplice locked up the fronts and pushed wide a little bit, or is the driver on the outside cut across? Either way, a big change at our leading pack as Brody Watts this time has managed to go from 3rd into the lead of the race. You can do that in these kind of cars. You know, first has no slipstream, second gets up close, pulls out of the toe, and then third can pick and choose, get a double slingshot, and from 3rd place you very often can shoot straight up to the lead of the pack. Watts has done it. Now Partridge and Merritt are battling over 2nd and 3rd. Can any of them get him before the S's? Merritt's now looking for this 2-for-1 slingshot from 3rd into 1st, and he will manage to pull it off. It's Ray Oliver in 4th, who's just been sitting, watching and waiting at the moment as the top 3 shuffle.
So the critical thing I want to now see from Ray Oliver is I want to see him maybe this lap or the next lap. He's got to test how far back he's got to be to get to the front of things at the exact right time. So he sat back there, he's watched the car's going to spin in front of the lead pack, and then going to go back there. But the thing I want to see from Ray is eventually he's going to make a move, right? So test it this lap, and then send it on the last lap once you've tested it. Or you need to be a little bit closer, no worries. You've got to be a little bit closer. You've got to be a little bit momentum before we come to the last corner, no problem. I went back and had another look at the incident between Liam Caplice and Mick Fisher. Mick Fisher just pushed deep under his brakes. He actually understood a bit, picked up Liam Caplice. So Caplice just wrong space, wrong time.
We're absolutely wheel to wheel at the lead here between Merritt and Watts. Watts will go around the outside of turn 1, take the inside of 2, go through into the lead of the race.
I think this battle pack's basically forming up and down the field too. There's a really tight one, 9th, 10th, I believe it is, and then 9th is out on the road, then a 10th through to about 13th. There's a few cars split by next to nothing. 17th, 18th, 19th through all together. So again, Formula V action is just, it's battle packs. Here it comes though, Dave.
Yeah, Merritt going through to the lead. Partridge looking to also slot through. He'll be able to do it. It's back in 3rd. Ray Oliver still sitting, watching, waiting in 4th. Probably 3 more laps to this race as well. It will just get that 1 extra lap in the 15 minutes. They're battling all their worth in 6th, 7th and 8th here as well. Edwards at the front of this pack gets plenty of the exit curb, but avoids the gravel. And at the lead, oh, this is just enough that Merritt might not be under attack in towards turn 1. The whole rest of the field are forced to follow him down the straight. But I think they're clever enough behind 2nd place to know just wait it out a little bit so we can stay in touch with the leader.
Yeah, I mean, it's decision making because this is setting it up for the penultimate lap, right? You've got to obviously want to be at the head of this second chase group. I don't think you want to be the 3rd place car in this group because I just don't think you can get it done the straight. So where the corners are laid out, I think you want to pick your line, and I think you want to be the guy that has control over where you're going to make the pass. I think you've got to be in second place. So Brodie Watts, I would say, is in probably the preferred seat. I don't think there's enough time to get the move done on the run to the flag, so I think this will be our final passing opportunity on a subsequent lap. It's down here at Dandenong Road. Ray Oliver has just completely and utterly ignored the weaving, not interested in the slightest. So he's maybe now thinking, I've got to get ahead here.
Our leading four, single file through this section. Can you pull out an attack here? Do you want to, or do you save it all for the draft on the pit straight? Merritt from Watts, from Partridge, from Ray Oliver. Many of these drivers thinking championship at this point in the season. You've gotten to the top of the points table by just taking top fives, top tens, when consistency has been so difficult in these big pack races, with this reverse grid coming up for race number 2 as well. Consistency has been super key. A little bit of traffic, as we will have 2 more laps in this race, but I don't think it will challenge our top 4. Merritt, Watts, Partridge very easily through, and no problems for 4th car in the train, Ray Oliver either. Tell you what, he'll be hoping he's got some visor tear-offs. Look at that, every single braking zone covered in smoke.
Oh, look, I mean, I don't know about you, but we tried to save some money as kids by actually not using tear-offs. We'd actually just wipe them down and use them again. So I don't know if Ray's thinking that. Maybe he's ripped a few tear-offs off. We'll have to ask Ray maybe at the tail end of the race. How many tear-offs you go through this race, Ray? Yeah, look, we're going to get one more lap 2 here, Dave. So I think right at about the right number. This is the second pack? No, I think this is the 3rd pack. This is Felipe. This is a mile down. This is that 11th, 12th, 13th pack that I was talking to you about. This was really tight racing through a number of cars. I think the car that was at the back managed to dodge them all. And he's come through. It was Dean Hunt that was involved in that one as well.
Yeah, 3 wide in towards turn number 1. The car on the inside has locked him up, pushed wide and skittled the rest of them, as we've seen happen before, as happens so easily. Do you believe we'll be coming towards the white flag this time? So how you set up, taking this white flag, thinking about your positioning, thinking about the game of chess that is going to unfold on this final lap of Sandown. Brodie Watts will lead them to taking the final lap of this race, but anyone in this top 4 has an equal chance, has an equal probability. As Merritt wants to put his nose in front at turn 1. Partridge has a mega run, looking at 3 wide, deciding against it, waiting, opting to bide his time on this final lap, maybe thinking about the back straight. It's less than half a second to cover your top 4. Ray Oliver has watched and waited. Is the last lap going to be his chance, his opportunity? Here's Edwards from Gamo going around the outside on Sam Chapman, and a tiny bit of traffic for them as well. Onto the back straight for our leaders. They also pass some traffic. John Merritt takes that opportunity to maybe block out some of the slipstream, but they're too close. Watts is bearing down on him. Partridge bearing down on him as well. 3 wide into the S's. They're going to try it. Partridge thinks he can sneak down the inside from 3rd place. He will do it. He'll get ahead of Merritt. Can he get clear of Watts? I suspect he can. Oliver's waiting for all of this to unravel, but it won't. Partridge holds on to that lead. Merritt pushes Watts out a little bit wide.
Here we go!
And you're so brave if you think you can pass here. Oliver is thinking he can get his nose to the inside on Merritt. Merritt will carry so much speed around the outside. How quickly will the checkered flag come out from our leaders? But that's Watts who goes wide and tags the wall. Partridge,
he's just struggling to make
Merritt, Oliver is going to be our podium. And that is heartbreak at the end for Brodie Watts, as Trevor Hearn will come through for one more position. Some of the others might gobble it up as well. And remember, 20th place from this race gets the pole position for race number 2 coming up.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye further back in the pack to see that. But look at this. Look at the timing from the other group. Look at them trying to set it up as well. They dodged a car that was round at the apex. Oh, just before you crest the hill and come down and over. Oh, down the way at turn 6. That's not where you... Look, it's 1 line through there at the best of times. Formula V's, maybe it's 2. But when there's a car parked across that line, and I would say was moving from right to left on that camera at the same time, Dave, that's just disaster. You never want to find a car there whatsoever.
And Sam Chapman Sam Chapman has dropped back on the final lap because of that. Corey Horter has gone through into 20th place just now. And that means he's going to go from, instead of starting race number 2 in 21st position, he's going to start race number 2 on pole. This is how they crossed the line. Lee Partridge took that win from John Merritt. Ray Oliver smelt that something could happen on the final lap. Something did. It was Brodie Watts going wide and into the wall. Oliver took a podium. Trevor Hearn then snuck through for another spot as well. Watts limping it across the line into 5th. Andrew Gamo, Cam Edwards, Jason Cutts, Dean Hunt, and Ayrton Filippi end up being the top 10. This next 10, so important though, because the top 20 are inverted for our grid into race number 2. 20th place going straight to the pole position. Damien Spinks, Kyle Ridley, Drew Beecham, Dylan Thomas, France Estebauer, Tony Baker, Mike Pepper, James Nesbitt, Corey Horter, and it turns out Nathaniel Coburn goes through into that 20th place. And Breyer on the 21st position misses out, and he will start 21st for this upcoming race. Brendan Nealon, Matthew Walker, and Nick Fisher were the last drivers on the lead lap. Scott, certainly plenty of carnage unfolding in that first of 3 races.
Yeah, and there was race controls. I missed who it was, but there were multiple start from pit lane penalties assessed at the tail end of that one. I'm not 100% sure who they were issued to. They were handing them out by car number. But yeah, so it'll be anywhere you see a space on this grid is going to be a pit lane start as they get ready to go. And inverted grid, this creates chaos. Where's the chaos going to unfold? Will they get through the chicane cleanly this time as that smoke rises in the air, Dave? The run to turn 1, it's on.
Lucky Nathaniel Coburn with the pole position, but Corey Horter has a great run looking around the outside of him. These drivers were battling for 19th and 20th at the end of the last race. With the invert for this one, they find themselves right up front. They want to try to hold on to some of that position, get a good result, because that'll also set the grid into the next one. Wheel-to-wheel contact again, drivers spearing off the circuit.
John Merritt and Lee Partridge were the 2 cars that made contact there that triggered that secondary collision. And there's another one at turn 4 as well. I think it was Gamo. It was somebody in behind Gamo who was around at turn 4. And they're still kicking. Oh, my word. It was Jason Cutts. Yeah, it was Jason Cutts I saw getting bounced off. It was wheel-to-wheel contact that just ejected him behind the... Look at the cars try and dodge. There's 3 wide moments up ahead. I can tell you Brodie Watts is sending on a number of drivers.
So Nathaniel Coburn's back to the lead of the race, and Dylan Thomas cuts through into 2nd, Peppers into 3rd. You got a little bit of a gap after that pile-up that happened, but right as I say it, Thomas has spun it around there. Okay, but we managed to all avoid that.
Team Hunt was slow in the middle of that, yep. So he dropped a few spots down there. I mean, this is going to be chaos. This will be right in front of the field. There's going to be multiple cars caught up in this.
My oh my, taking evasive action almost straight into the pit lane for Brodie Watts. If he didn't already have some damage, they were spun right on the racing line, a place you want to optimize your exit off there onto the pit straight. These races have been nothing if not surprising and fraught. So Coburn from Beecham, from Kyle Ridley, after the first lap of race number 2, this inverted sprint. Looks pretty good for Ridley there, actually, to hook onto the slipstream of the leaders with 2 seconds to spare back to where 4th place is, which is Cam Edwards, who's obviously worked his way through the field pretty strongly. Corey Horter, Trevor Hearn, Lee Partridge, Ayrton Filippi, Ray Oliver is this pack. So Partridge has managed to mainly survive the lap 1 chaos. So too for Ray Oliver, who you can see in black and blue just at the tail end of this group. Filippi getting covered off.
Yeah, and good hesitation, good realization for Filippi. If he'd sent it through there 3 wide with the block as it was, there was no way he was getting through. He gets shuffled to the tail end of this group, but that's okay. He gets to live on. He gets to fight again.
Absolutely, he does pack racing again in Formula Vee Australia E-Series. This round at Sandown. 2 wide in the final couple of corners here. Not what you typically want to do.
Yeah, there's 2 wide in a number of spots in this reverse grid. And I think this is going to tell the story of what triggered the pile-up. I think it was John Merritt down here was the car that was sort of watching on board with Watts I'm pretty sure that's Merritt that's made contact there and sent the 64 cutting across the grass. And it was him and Partridge that just got tangled together. Their wheels and suspension sort of getting sucked into each other. And then this is Jason Cutts and what's happened to him, because I saw him go flying. I think that was Felipe trying to rejoin. They bobble, they bounce, and then, well, front tyre on rear tyre actions. What's broken his suspension? Was it the rejoin? Looks okay. No, the suspension definitely damaged there. Yeah.
Back left tire. Potentially the toe very out of line in that as well.
It all kicked off. Kyle Ridley, we've taken 2 moments to have a look at everything that happened on lap number 1. And Kyle Ridley snuck through to the lead. Good drive. That's a really good drive.
He was in third. He was on that slipstream, and it'll catch you up very, very quickly. It'll give you almost half a second down some of these straights. We saw that from race number 1. Merritt would get out to a 7/10 lead. He'd try to weave to break that toe, but the rest of the pack would be immediately back on him by the time they got to turn 1 or the end of the back straight. So is he able to break away from Coburn, from Beecham, from Trevor Hearn? As a little bit around in the background was Cam Edwards, but Ridley's just trying to get his head down, get on the lines, and even if 1 or 2 cars go with him, he'll look to try to put in more race pace than the whole rest of the field behind.
They were just 3 wide heading into turn number 1. Anton Felipe, Ray Oliver, and Lee Partridge. So Partridge lived to fight another day after that incident with Merritt. And have a look at Matthew Walker. Have a look at the concentration in his face. Has not blinked. I reckon he's blinking about once every 3 or 4 minutes at the moment. That's such as his intent glare at the lead. And Anton Felipe's around at turn number 4, and there's a car off at turn 1 as well.
Yeah. This pack is shortly going to be approaching on the slow car of Anton Felipe as he builds back up to speed after being off at turn 4. Walker going for the shift, 3rd to 4th.
He did blink.
Does he only do it when he shifts gears?
Yeah, I think it's when he shifts gears. So Matthew Walker confirmed blinks when he shifts gears. So I think he'd struggle in real life. I think he must walk around with a gear shifter attached somewhere.
I'm not touching that one. So this is a 3 wide moment. Felipe's on the inside, heading down towards turn number 1. Looks to come back across for a better racing line. Okay, he gets himself ahead, but then he's got to defend into 2 and 3. A little bit of curb at 2. A lot of curb on the entry into 4, and he's out there and just railroads himself to drive out of that, to be honest.
It was actually a good drive up until that point for Ayrton Felipe, because it's just continued to go. He might have a small amount of camber or toe damage, and then it's assessing what the damage is and feeling the feeling properly through the car. He probably wouldn't know he has any damage. If it's so minor, some drivers can really feel it if they've got a really good sense of their car or they feel something is off. They will pick it up very, very quickly and they'll know something's quite wrong. A lot of other drivers won't quite know because they're so focused on thinking about entry, mid, exit, entry, mid, exit, hit your marks. They're thinking it. They're very think and brain-focused drivers, and you've got the ones that really feel everything. So if Felipe's in that thinking it through, maybe he's not one of the ones that's capable of, where does Will go? Dave, I need to buy one of these things. My wife's in trouble.
Yeah, I bet. Will Twining had a great run there, but couldn't get to the inside, which is obviously where you want to be, where we've seen drivers manage to make the move. If you're level as you go in there, the inside line will benefit you. Trevor Hearn's dropping backwards. He was up towards the top 5 once again, and something's come unstuck for him at the back end of the circuit.
Keep your eyes going forwards as well.
Ridley's broken the toe at the lead from Coburn. Then you've got that pack over 3rd, 4th, 5th, Ray Oliver and Lee Partridge. Partridge is looking for the move, and these two, of course, raced in the lead pack in the first race, started deeper in the field off this reverse grid, and have worked their way back up to podium positions again. So what happened to Hearn, who was in 3rd? They just go out wide, too much curb, and then high sides it on the exit.
At least it's front on nose contact, so you'll probably be okay there. No vital parts in that nose cone. It's just sort of sits down there, protects the driver. Well, I mean, his feet will probably be shaking a little bit after that one. That's about it. No wheels, no motor. So everything's going to be A-OK out of that one. I was really, really looking forward to Felipe because remember that drive he had at Watkins Glen? I was actually internally sort of cheering on him. Ray Oliver and Lee Partridge are working together here to see if they can close down Coburn ahead of them. He is 3 seconds on the road, there's 6 minutes on the clock. But I think if they can keep swap drafting the way that they're doing, they've got a chance. Beecham's doing a phenomenal job just to stay with him. He recognises that he's not a part of that fight. There's no way that he has the pace to go with these guys, but if he can just stay attached, it's going to buy him out of the battles that are going on behind him. So, yeah, a little bit disappointed.
Why would you do it? Why would you do that to him?
I'm sorry. I'm so Drew, if you're listening, if friends and family... Is that Ayrton again? No, it was Ayrton Philippi. No, it was Porter. Corey Horter. Corey Horter, wrong way around.
Yeah, has had to compromise his line very, very late on the exit. These cars super sensitive to rotating off throttle, rotating on the brakes, and as he's come off the throttle, the car has rotated around on him. And then third and fourth, Partridge and Oliver will know that they've likely got the pace to be able to catch Ridley and Coburn if they don't trip over each other. So we saw how thinking Ray Oliver was in race number 1. If he does the same again, these two could be on for reeling in some more positions. They're 1.8 seconds behind the next car that they took 1.5 seconds out of on the last lap. So they'll get to Coburn quite quickly, leapfrogging as they are. Whether they can catch Kyle Ridley by the end will be interesting.
Yeah, I think Ridley's gone. I think Ridley's beyond their grasp, but they're racing for effectively second place. But what that's going to do really nicely is set both of these guys up for race 3. It's going to put them in a really nice grid spot. Who are the other guys that performed out of that race number 1? Well, it was Brodie Watson, John Merritt. They're locked together in their own little battle as well, but now they're being pulled along by Trevor Hearns. And they're just starting to buy themselves up on towards... Actually, it's Drew Beecham that's just ahead of them on track. Yeah, look, I think this one's going to continue to boil over because you've got to remember that the Brodie Watts will be thinking what could have been from race number 1.
The great thing about this style of racing in the Formula V's, we've got a grid of over 30 cars. Everywhere you look, there is someone having a battle somewhere. We can talk about lead battles, podium battles, but you just look down the straight and everyone is having some kind of battle, including Mackenzie here getting past Chapman in towards turn 1. And that is for 6th place, which is for points here in race 2, but also a good grid position inside of that top 10 for the final race could help you avoid any carnage that seems inevitable at this point in turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's what I would be thinking about this finishing result, bringing home something inside of the top 10 to try to set you up to finish strong in race number 3. So Kyle Ridley with a 3-second gap over this group where Partridge, Oliver have caught up to and will quite rapidly potentially swamp Nathaniel Coburn, who's done very, very well to try to convert that 20th place inverted pole position into a good result here in race number 2.
Yeah, and look at the hands full from Ray Oliver as well. The other thing I would like to point out is they have actually made ground on Kyle Ridley. It's not enough, though. He's definitely getting a little bit bigger out through the front end of those cars that they're looking at, but it's not quite enough. It's 3 minutes left. We're going to have 3 laps left to run. It's not going to be enough for them to close down on Kyle Ridley. Now they've gotten here past Coburn, there's an opportunity that'll present itself. Whether or not they can take it, it's a completely different thing. Beecham did a great job as well. You just missed it the previous lap. This will be the view for these guys trying to get down the inside. This is Ray Oliver's ride. This is going to be wild. I hope he's got some padding down in there underneath the seat, because that is a bottoming out Formula V. He would have got a spine shock, the kind you wouldn't believe. That would have hurt quite aggressively. Beecham's done a great job because he was just fighting with Brodie Watson, John Merritt, and he recognised they needed to let them go on the straight, so he had an optimum line at turn number 1. And if they wanted to squabble, they can squabble. He's just going to watch.
Yeah, needs to keep the nose in front of the tail again. This is a repeat of what's happened the last couple of laps. Is Mackenzie stays to the extreme driver's right, offers up that inside if Twining wants it, if they want to try to leapfrog. And Will Twining has decided, yes, he has his nose in front, and that's absolutely the car positioning that you want going in here. In fact, he's even going to get right back onto the racing line. No dramas there. There will still be 2 more laps left in this race. You can see on the column that Partridge and Oliver not doing enough to catch Ridley. They need a mistake if they're going to fight him for the lead. Everyone having a battle inside the top 10 except Ridley and except Sam Chapman in 5th.
And Ridley's sitting back there going, please keep fighting, guys. Please keep fighting, guys. Please keep fighting, guys. I'm going to keep looking forward. I hope you guys keep fighting. And here comes Ray Oliver now. I was wondering whether or not he was a touch too far back. Well, he's proved me wrong. I love being proved wrong.
Yeah, well, they also get the leapfrog going, but they need an immense amount of pace to be able to catch Ridley. As we've pointed out, in 2 laps, they're going to need to find 2 seconds on him. Good stuff from Coburn, staying with them as well. That's a great example of this style of racing in these VEs. Is if you are switched on, you don't have to have the outright lap pace, because you can just go with someone who's maybe half a second a lap, maybe even 8/10 of a lap quicker than you. If you just don't make mistakes and you don't overdrive the corners, trust the slipstream will bring you back in, and then don't overdrive the next corner as well. So Coburn has been very smart as far as trying to convert a 20th place in race 1 into the top 5 in race number 2.
He's going to be really well positioned for the next race. And most conveniently, I've missed the easiest pun of the night. Go figure, it's the frog leap cars that are best at the leapfrog tactic. That one was absolutely set up by whoever it was that came up with the frog leap team name. And
that fruit is so low hanging that the branch is touching the ground and it's gone rotten.
Hey, somebody will eat it. Somewhere in the world, somebody is starving enough to eat the low-hanging fruit, and I am just serving it up to them. That's all there is.
Well, they have pulled an immense amount of time on Kyle Ridley this lap. The leapfrog between Partridge and Oliver sees that it's 1.6 seconds if they're quick down the straight towards turn number 1. If they can be quick through those opening sectors, they might just be able to hook onto the slipstream on the back straight.
Whoa!
Oh, someone's gone a long way.
Car.
It was indeed a lap car. So Ridley, if he can hold his head, still has enough time in pocket. Coburn, if he can keep his head, can stay on the slipstream of these podium getters. But yeah, one more lap, and I think Kyle Ridley might have been in trouble.
Yeah, he was right on that. They're out of time this time by. I remember when I said last race that it was, I think you've got to get it done at Dandenong Road, which is exactly what John Merritt did at the first race. So now it's between these two. Who's going to get it out of Lee Partridge and Ray Oliver? And for me, if Nathan was maybe a little bit smarter, be a little bit closer, he would have bought into this. Maybe a free extra place that was in the offering there. A little bit too far back now. But hey, he's got to watch what these guys are doing. He's got the opportunity to learn something. And more importantly, he's learned how to leapfrog by the best of the frog leapers.
Race 2 pays points, but it also sets the grid straight into race 3 with no more inversions. So for Kyle Ridley, if he can take this one to the checkered flag, he'll be very happy with themselves. Great work from Partridge and Oliver as well, racing their way through the field onto the podium. And Nathaniel Coburn is taking that as a win from 20th place to the reverse grid pole to 4th. Merritt with Hearn and Watts, though, in a drag race out of the final corner towards the checkered flag. And I do believe Merritt, just by 0.02 of a second, gets that one, having a fight against teammates. Never easy when they've got 2 dogs in the fight.
Yeah, but a great job from John Merritt as well. Remember what his lap 1 looked like. It didn't look all that pretty. It was going backwards. It was going upside down. He's recovered well, and it's consistency. When the world's going against you, man, I really want Walker to get this one. He's not quite going to get there in the end, unfortunately. I wanted to see him pick up that bear and celebrate in style, but yeah, it's about taking the most of the points opportunities that are available to you, and that's been the difference from John Merritt. I'm really happy though from Ray Oliver. Have we ever seen a driver that go same position in race 1, same position in race 2, same position in race 3? I don't think we have, but Ray Oliver so far has got 2/3. Can he get a third?
Well, we'll have a look then how they finished race number 2. Kyle Ridley from 9th on the grid to the win. Lee Partridge from 20th on the grid to 2nd. Ray Oliver from 18th on the grid to 3rd. Nathaniel Coburn, that inverted pole position, doing very well to dodge the carnage, work with the faster cars coming through and get 4th place. Sam Chapman to 5th place, was out of that top 20 invert. He's come from 25th to 5th. Sean McKenzie's come from 32nd to 6th. John Merritt needs to keep getting these top 10s for his championship, and Brodie Watts, Trevor Hearn, Will Twining complete our top 10. In 11th was Beecham. From Alex Newton, Corey Horder, Ben Breyer, Dean Hunt, Cam Edwards, Matthew Walker, Ayrton Filippi, Liam Caplice, and James Nesbitt as the top 20. Remembering that after our little break here, this grid set exactly from these finishing positions.
Yeah, and another fun fact, Sam Chapman started race 1 from 5th in qualifying, finished 25th. Started race number 2 from 25th, finished 5th. So he's either going to go plus 20 or minus 20. Well, he can't go plus 20 in race number 3, starting 5th. So I feel like, unfortunately, Sam, it's backwards 20s, so 25th.
Well, what an exciting but chaotic and fraught race 1 and 2 for the Formula Vee E-Series from Sandown. The drivers and us get a chance to catch our breath for a couple of minutes before they head into the final 20-minute feature race of Formula Vee Australia E-Series from Sandown. And of course, our thanks go out to CXC Racing, Lux Performance, Giant Mandra, V-Race Experience, Litech, and our admins and race control, Southern Cross Esports. Let's take a break here on SimSpeed TV and come back to you in a couple minutes' time with the 20-minute Formula Vee feature race.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
We're back with Formula Vee Australia E-Series presented by Southern Cross Esports, and it has been exciting at Sandown, one of Australia's great tracks for this style of racing. 3 kilometers is just about right. Getting ready for race number 3 in a moment. And Scott, you're going to wind back the clocks a little bit on some of our previous race?
Yeah. So we went and did some digging, and I've actually gone deep into the talent pool here. I've grabbed someone who's probably not up the front all the time, but is definitely an entertaining personality to be around and race with. It's Cameron Edwards. Now, Cam, what we've actually gone and done was we noticed a huge moment with you in the battle pack that you were in that first race, and it was a moment on the last lap heading up to Dandenong. Do you want to talk us through this one? Because this is the run, I believe, from your cockpit. No, that's Carl Ridley's cockpit. No, it is your cockpit. So, Cam, this is the run up to Dandenong Road. What happens here?
Which lap are we on here?
This is the last lap of the first race. There's a cardio outside, and you're about to come across one of the most scariest moments in motorsport.
I can't actually see the replay, boys, so I can't actually see what I'm looking at.
So effectively, you've come up at the end of Dandenong Road. You're 3 wide just about on the entry to Dandenong Road, and there's a car parked at the apex of Dandenong Road. What do you do in that instance? What's the race brain telling you? Is it, oh no, Is there a thought process? Is there anything going on behind the screens?
Yeah, it's try and look up the road as far as you can, and hopefully they don't roll backwards into your path.
Mate, how's the racing been in this series? Because obviously there's been a little bit of chaos, but that's Formula V racing, particularly from a sim racing perspective, where things tend to hurt nowhere near as bad. Seasons, we've seen some good results from you, we've seen some average results, we've seen some back end of the table results. What's the feel so far?
Tonight, the car is fast, but the driver is slow and making too many errors. So the Jazzmat Formula V is fast. We can stay up with people, but the nut behind the wheel has to try and keep it on the island in the early laps and then make a run from there, not throw it down the road on lap 1 or 2.
Righto, so starting grid, Kyle Ridley, Lee Partridge, Ray Oliver, Nathaniel Coburn, Sam Chapman, Sean McKenzie's your top 6. And then after that, we'll throw it back to John Merritt, Brodie Watts, Trevor Hearn, Will Twining, Drew Beecham, Alex Newton, and then Dave Cam is in this next page. Corey Horter, Ben Brayer, Dean Hunt, Cam Edwards in 16th. That's the guy we're just talking to. 17th was... they're gone. I tell you what, everything's lining up. The run down to turn number 1 for the final race of tonight's Formula Vee Australia action. Down underneath the Penrite Bridge, the run at turn number 1. It's Kyle Ridley that had pole position. Who's going to come out the other side?
Grid should be representative of the field's pace, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee clean racing, as everyone wants the biscuits in the final of these 3 races, and that is Will Twining around, but he spun off the racing line. If he's smart, he'll keep it out of the way, and there's a big pile up at the end of turn 4. Partridge has dramas, but cartwheeling between the walls on the back straight. Kyle Ridley and John Merritt are through cleanly, but the rest of the field looking like they've lost either big time or damaged.
Yeah, massive damage to another car. There were 7 cars that got through, 8 cars that got through. You want to know why that happened? It was the 2 leaders. Guess who the 2 leaders were at that point that had the incident? Little spin. It was Kyle Ridley, and it was also Lee Partridge. Lee Partridge got through on Kyle, and he lost it on his own. Then Kyle bounced over the curbs at turn number 4. Chaos at the front of the field, left nowhere for the rest of the field to go.
Immediately a gap forming between the top 6 and the rest of the field as Damien Spinks from 8th spins himself out and creates a larger gulf between Merritt, Ridley, Coburn, McKenzie, Oliver and Beecham, and the cars behind just keep losing time or encountering trouble.
I can tell you, Lee Partridge has just spun, and he's taken, I think it's Brendan Nealon along with him. Yeah, it was Brendan Nealon from the Ichika Toyota Pulse Tuning team, guys. So there's more chaos going on, and Lee Partridge was looking like one of the best drivers so far tonight. He had a P2, in the previous race, he'd managed to finish in P2 in the race number 1, had managed to take home the win as well. So we're sitting in a very, very good spot in terms of overall points, but now he's had 2 incidents in the opening number of laps. He's in dire straits if he wants a round.
This is our lead pack. Merritt, he knows how to weave. He's got the knitting needles out. But Ridley, again, too close. You can't make so drastic of a move, and you're never going to be able to shake them if they're within half a second. If they're at 8/10, 9/10, you give it a go. But at this range, you're not going to get rid of them. You're just opening yourself up to the risk of contact. And this is a longer race than the first 2, not by any dramatic amount, just an extra 5 minutes, which should give us an extra 3 or 4 laps. But Coburn did so well to keep his head in race number 2. He's gone and lost it there on the curb in race number 3, losing touch with the leaders that he did so masterfully last time.
Yeah, I was wondering whether or not we actually caught the sound of the car spinning in the background of that last shot, because that was actually Nathan Coburn down at the end of turn number 1, crest the hill, down at the turn number 9, went to pick up the throttle and didn't stick. Sam Chapman at the moment is looking to defend for all his money against Liam Caplice. It's not been a great night from Liam Caplice. Another driver we've seen some really, really strong performances, has showed potential out here, but has just maybe gotten involved in one too many issues along the way to suit him.
First and second suddenly have a little bit of time for themselves with a lapped car between Ridley in second and Oliver in third. Immediately pulls out of the way, Kenzie in fourth, and then again you can see so much clear space behind that to where Coburn and Walker are in fifth and sixth after Coburn's spin. So longer race, but immediately around the a horse track at Sandown, it's looking like a 4-horse race.
Yeah, it's been trimmed down massively into one frog and 3 horses, effectively, well, 2 frogs, my apologies, and 2 horses up the front end of things. So that's how it's settling down. It was Brody Watts. It was actually the car that these guys were actually lapping in that incident. He was actually coming back out of the pit lane, it looked like, in the middle of these guys. I don't think he's got damage, but he's not quite on the same pace, so not 100% sure what's going on for Brody Watts.
Well, he's been through the lane, and so the damage and then the pit lane would have cost him that whole lap, but he'll be back out in repaired form. More dramas for Coburn as he drops further back and finds himself in a difficult position in the final sector here. 4-way battle for what will probably be 7th, 8th, 9th. Oh, okay, we'll cut one car out of that as Franz Estebauer moves up and Nick Fisher, I think it is, moves backwards. Board with Estebauer as he goes and decides that he's going to go 3 wide, put Jason Cutts in the middle here. Spinks is the outside in towards turn 1. If I'm 3 wide on the outside, my instinct is to roll out of that throttle and brake a little early, and that's what he does. Tries to cut back with great momentum. Nowhere to go though, and you can't realistically go too wide over these curbs. Far too dangerous.
Yeah, a lot of risk involved in doing that. Maybe later on, maybe there'll be a few drivers that look to do that exact strategy, but for right now, no way that's necessarily going to happen. We've ended up with a really shaken up field for race number 3 just because of where that incident was on lap number 1. So an opportunity here for Estebauer. Pepper, remember, didn't set a qualifying lap. He's all of a sudden found his way up inside the top 10. Coburn's still hanging on to his top 10 at this point in time, but now drivers are starting to hatch them. Drivers are starting to chase them down. Looking at Matt Walker, Sam Chapman, Liam Caplice, Andrew Gemmo, Alex McDonald, Cam Edwards, all the way down in 17th. There's a ton of guys back there that shouldn't be that far back, so look for this to get tighter as the race goes on.
Some drivers have done very well for themselves in the opening laps of this 3rd race. Jason Cutts, who started 30th on the grid, finds himself here in 6th place. Estebauer, who started 27th. Mike Pepper started 34th, and he's up into the top 10. So amongst all of that, and the track almost being blocked at turn 4 on lap number 1, some drivers have managed to do well for themselves. And this gap between 2nd and 3rd, I keep having my eye on, because if Oliver pushes on, he can catch them. He's just at the fringe of, if he gets another half a second, he'd be in the tow. Depends. Do Merritt and Ridley work together, and is there communication between Ridley and Oliver?
Somebody's just spun at turn 1. I think it's actually Matt Walker. Just had a spin at turn 1. He got down the inside of Nathaniel Coburn. Nathaniel Coburn was the drafting dummy, the guy that was sort of left out and abandoned at the head. Oh! Liam Caplice. Man. I tell you what, if you're Liam Caplice, surely he's burned off all of his bad luck. That man should buy a lottery ticket, because there is no way that his bad luck can continue on the lottery because of the amount of bad luck he's burned in behind.
Needs more haunts. That's what'll fix him up, I reckon.
Look, maybe he goes, wins the lottery, gets himself out of Formula V's, goes and buys an upgraded car, and who knows where we see Liam Caplice in the future. That's my advice, Liam Caplice. If you're listening in, go buy yourself a lottery ticket and buy me a race car whilst you're at it.
Merritt going defensive, and the pace of the first 2 is drawing them away from 3rd and 4th. And Ridley goes through into the lead. John Merritt not finding a way to fight that. Mackenzie and Oliver a little slower on that lap and not able to cleanly navigate turns 1 and 2. So it's looking 2-horse race at the moment, but with traffic, with a longer race, anything could still happen to see Ridley and Merritt lose that second that would drop them back to Mackenzie and Oliver. Is this going to be a straightforward leapfrog again between our leaders?
Potentially. The critical factor is, how well do Ray Oliver and Sean Mackenzie work together? Because Oliver's been quite good at working with people the whole time. He's been the best at it, you would nearly say, of the entire field. If they can close some of this gap up, all of a sudden, David Haynes, the ritual of Sean Mackenzie letting you sit in his car, maybe it didn't pay out on the racetrack in real life. Maybe it's going to pay out on the sim. Maybe it's sim success for Sean Mackenzie.
Let's wait 9 laps before we decide find a lucky charm or not. We can make some judgments potentially on what is and isn't a lucky charm for Matthew Walker, because he's got plenty of charms. Does he have plenty of luck? He's engaged in a really, really tight battle here. Almost 3 wide. He's lost the rear, stood on the brakes, locked it all up, and managed to keep the nose in front of the tail. Stressful moment, but he did the right thing. The car was going to spin if he tried to be a hero. He just locked up all 4 tires, and that gave him a chance to not hold the position, but to keep the car together.
Yeah, and, well, lucky charms, I think they just paid off. Is there a rabbit's foot in behind that bear somewhere? Hey, ladies and gents, if you're watching that, go and search up Matthew Walker and World's Go to Shave. I think after that one, a few hairs just fell out. They didn't need to be shaved off anymore.
Like, grown a few grey hairs. Elsewhere, and for some important points, though, Franz Estebauer, Jason Cutts, Dean Hunt. And I've had Sean McKenzie told me, you know, Jason Cutts is the Jacer guy, and I said, yes, I do know that. I just don't feel the need to go on about it every time we see him. But we have said before, obviously someone very, very wise in the world of Formula V's, and looking to move forward into 5th with that slipstream on the back straight.
Yep, there we go. That's how it's done, ladies and gentlemen, all the way up to 5th. It's a distance 5th. But have a look at the gaps that are 2 ahead on the timing
It pays
tree.
the same points whether there's 20 seconds to 4th place or you were in a drag race.
Well, yeah, that's true. It doesn't necessarily matter. If every place is covered by 1,000th or every place is covered by minutes, it effectively pays the same. There's an opportunity here.
It's closed
Have a look
up
at the
between,
timing tree.
third.
That's what I was just about to point out. Have a look at the timing tree. That was 3 seconds back to Ray Oliver in 3rd place before. They've taken 7/10 of a second out. It's only been about 2 minutes since we last checked those timings. There's enough time left. So whether or not Ridley and Merritt are figuring that out, well, whether or not there's some team games to be had here.
And Ray Oliver's damn quick regardless. He might have the speed to go forward, and we haven't seen any hints of McKenzie, fighting against him, defending him too hard.
No.
This is Jason Cutts, Estebauer back through again, and Dean Hunt in this battle as well.
They've actually taken time out of the leaders as well. So Ridley and Merritt are actually fighting. They're not actually working together. Because the last time we looked at Estebauer and Cutts and the gap to the leader, it was out about 18 seconds. So it has closed down. And they've now taken another 5/10. I was watching them come out of turn 4 that last lap, David. They were squabbling the whole way down the back straight. So also I was watching McKenzie and Oliver for how well they were working together. I can tell you, Merritt and Ridley are having a ding-dong battle. And the best part for us is it's about to become a 4-car battle. It's closed down even more. Here comes Ray Oliver. Here comes Sean McKenzie. And John Merritt, maybe you're going to have to find yourself a dance partner, my friend.
Merritt goes to the inside, but the moment you pull out, the wall of air hits you, you stall out a little bit, and he's just able to get back onto the racing line. The leapfrog happens behind as well. Oliver back in front of McKenzie. 1.4 seconds on my timing. Split in between the packs. Great pace at this point from Ray Oliver, and there might be some communication with Ridley potentially. If you could get the 2 teammates together, you do multiply your chances of coming away with this feature race win.
Well, okay. For my math, I want Kyle Ridley to win it, and I don't want Ray Oliver to finish 2nd. I want Ray Oliver to finish 3rd, because I still don't think we've had bang, 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 the same result in all 3 races so far this season. And have a look at McKenzie. The last time McKenzie went through on Ray Oliver went through on McKenzie on the front straight, McKenzie lifted and enabled that move to happen. Ray Oliver's just done the same thing there. Did not fight him, did not squabble for momentum. Over through the turn 6, 7, 8, 9 complex down to the end of the Dandenong Road there. That's why they're gaining. Whenever they get a run, they're working together. Smoke up ahead. There's a broken down car in front of our leaders on the way to pit lane. No, he's still on the racing circuit. It's Philip Gardner.
That's more than a normal amount of smoke. That is popped corn.
I think that's more than popcorn. I think that's
That's how much smoke you get if you leave the gearbox oil cap off.
Hey, look, I tried to reference it earlier. Now you want to talk about it at the tail end of the night? You wanted to save it up for this moment right now, Dave? Come on.
Well, you were making out like it was my fault. I wasn't even there when he was trying to do it.
Sean McKenzie is up inside the top 4. Right, you've got to tell this story so the whole audience at home needs to know about what went on with Sean McKenzie and a flag at Queensland Racing.
He just had a little bit of whoopsie, a little bit too much gearbox oil came out, and they don't smile fondly on that. But things are definitely heating up and not smoking up front, because it's 1.4 seconds to cover all of your top 4. Merritt and Ridley getting punchier in this final quarter of the race. McKenzie and Oliver still leapfrogging, which they may want to do, and I think McKenzie's within a second. That's where the slipstream starts. That's where you get that benefit, and once you're within that second, it kind of magically takes care of the rest of itself. So you've just got to make sure you nail your lines, get smoothly off the corners, and stick your nose directly in the path that the driver in front punched a nice hole in the air.
Yeah, and now it's playing. He's not quite there, and he's realised it. So he's not compromising his momentum. Now he's going to set it up. So watch Ray Oliver here. He's going to lift. I guarantee you he's going to lift. So Ray Oliver wants the best momentum line into turn 1. Huge lift from Sean McKenzie. Not going to fight you for it. You both go faster if Ray Oliver gets the best line into turn number 1.
Yeah, and Merritt didn't get it because he was trying to defend. He was trying to cover off Kyle Ridley. So it closes up in the closing stages between our top 4. Further back, you've got Andrew Gamo, Alex McDonald, Mike Pepper, Matthew Walker, and Damien Spinks involved in one of the fiercer battles, going on in the field. See Walker moves across one line, moves across another to maybe look 3 wide in towards turn 1. Things get punchier towards the closing stages of these races. The tangling wheels in front, Gamo and McDonald.
So now it's an even bigger battle pack as well. Now it's 7 cars. Throw a blanket over them. Look, I'm going to be down there punching in bets, but I don't be looking to cash in any of them right now, because look at how they're squabbling in that battle pack. And again, the Oliver McKenzie battle pack takes chunks of time out of our race leaders. Are they going to get there? They're going to have 4 minutes left. We're going to have 3 race laps left to run. This is going to be nothing in this when they finally get down to the last lap. I think they're going to get there. Barely.
So that's Gamo bottom of screen leading them into the S's. Ridley pulling out to try to take the lead. McKenzie pulling out on Oliver. 2 wide, 2 deep as our top 4 go down the pit straight. Able to pull a little more out of the lead this time. They've just really struggled closing this last second to the leaders. But now that Ridley is in front, driving the defensive lines, I think it's pretty clear what's going on and how quickly that gap will close when Ridley leads the way through the corners.
Yeah, they're much closer than they've ever been so far before. I don't know whether or not he got a great run off of Turner before that time by, but they're definitely in the slipstream now, so it doesn't matter. That gap to John Merritt's going to close. He's going to pop the nose out here in just a second, and now he's not going forwards anywhere. So now Ridley becomes just a touch closer. McKenzie's there. They've bought into the argument. What have they got to say? Ray Oliver has been dicey, and he's been looking for things at the last moment. Is this finally the one that he gets it? And McKenzie lets it happen again. This is perfect. This is teamwork.
And the clock counts down. 2 more laps at the end of this one. They fly by quickly at Sandown, just over 3 kilometres. Look at this battle. There's Cutts and Esterbauer, there's Partridge and Thomas everywhere in the field. People are battling for position in the closing stages of this race. Teammates reunited, 2nd and 3rd, top of screen. 3 wide, bottom of screen. And I think Sam Chapman has his nose in front, just gets clear of Andrew Gamo to go through and take the racing line. John Merritt's running middle of the road for the race lead, forcing Kyle Ridley to go aggressively to the inside. He lets Ray Oliver pick and choose what slipstream he wants. He's immediately sucked into this battle where they go 2 wide through turn number 1, and a 2-way fight for the lead becomes a 4-way fight for the lead. Merritt has to have all of his wits about him to defend this one to the checkered flag.
Yeah, but John Merritt, remember what we talked about, the racecraft, the consistency from John Merritt. He knows what to do in these circumstances because he's already been there this season. There's 2 laps left to run, and look at the alternative lines he's immediately starting to run. Ray Oliver working with his teammate. Merritt senses, hey, I want these guys to squabble at turn 6. Offers that to somebody else. Oh, no, Franz Esterbauer. It's just gone wrong at the tail end of things. battling between the guys that are down ahead of them, Gamo, McDonald, Chapman, and Pepper has been phenomenal as well. But you can't take your eyes off of this. This is for a win.
Slipstream on the back straight brings them all together. 4 Formula Vs within 4 Formula V lengths. The white flag will ignite this battle shortly as Merritt, Oliver, Ridley, and Mackenzie will all know it's the final lap of the race, and we're heading towards the grandstand finish that Formula V at Sandown deserves. There it is. Barney's got it in the air, and Merritt has to play chess for 3.1 kilometers.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether or not... Oh, hang on. This is the Franz Estebauer move. So we want to stay with our leaders. So that was Cutts making contact down at turn number 1. I thought it was Estebauer going to end up with, but something went wrong there. There's also lap traffic, which is Cam Edwards 2.5 seconds in front of our leaders at this point in time. So if they get a little bit closer, that's the Formula V you can see there. Now the squabbling's kicked off, Dave. This is a true last lap battle. I think Barney's got his breath held as much as any of us.
Merritt defended it into turn 1, but what it means is he still leads them coming onto the back straight. The best opportunity for Oliver, Ridley, and Mackenzie to strike. Merritt weaving once, weaving twice, but once the opponent gets this close, you can't do it because it's blocking, it's dangerous, and so Oliver tucks into the slipstream, carries the speed out wide, will have the nose in front, but be forced to go the long way round. His teammate Ridley looks to make it 3 wide. There isn't a V length there. Mackenzie now looks for the inside. They're side by side, and this takes the pressure off Ray Oliver. The 4-way fight, the pack means that Merritt gets swamped. Mackenzie dives it down the inside, goes out wide, shoves Merritt off the racing line. Oliver has a second on everyone, but who's going to finish second? Ridley has his nose in front, but it's the outside of the final corner. Mackenzie breaks in deep, can't get clear, looks to cut back. The exit has been tough off that final corner, but Ray Oliver comes through to take the win. Ridley, Mackenzie, and Merritt in a drag race for the final podium spot, and it's gone to Mackenzie by
John Merritt
3,000th of a second.
Missed out. How close have those races been? All night long. It's just been absolutely intense. There's been nothing in it. And I'm going to be honest with you, from John, I think he played the games a little bit too much. I think he moved coming down the back straight. I think he sort of went for a hole, tried to cover off the hole, then pulled back away again. I'm a little bit confused what that was about. From Merritt's perspective, you cover it, and you cover it firmly. The instant you leave half a gap there, it's invited Kyle Ridley to come back down the inside. There was a hole there. It wasn't a full hole, but I don't think Kyle could really assess that from where we were sitting. It's a tricky one, but Patrick Harding, I'm enjoying this from him. He's...
Shirt matches the banner, matches the car.
Yeah, it's all matching, man.
And he looks to be in one of the seats of one of my recently more favoured brands.
Man, I'm just enjoying the Victorian flag marshalling team, because if he's actually part of the Victorian flag marshalling team, he gets out there. This is what I grew up doing. It's helping out at club level. It's being in a part of marshalling, assisting my parents with running clubs and all sorts of things. Nobody survives without people wanting to get involved. And if he's doing that from what appears to be a younger age, man, that is one of the best. Because that is how you get yourself involved in motorsport. If you want the best seats in the house, ladies and gentlemen, they're not there in the stands, as you can see through the other side of the Penrite Bridge. They're actually down at the marshalling posts. You get a lot closer to the action than you ever would from a fan's perspective.
All right. Well, what a dramatic final lap and final race of Formula Vee Australia from Sandown. Any one of our leading 4 could have won it. Ray Oliver, though, timing the move to the last opportunity on the last lap to go through into the lead of the race, and then his teammate Kyle Ridley to second. Mackenzie and Merritt so close for 3rd and 4th, and you needed not just the stopwatch but the high-speed camera to tell them apart on that one. Mackenzie just getting to the checkered flag in time, and head and shoulders above the rest was our top 4, because you need to look another 20 seconds to find Jason Cutts in 5th, Dean Hunt, Franz Estebauer, drama late on for him, but still scoring 7th place, and then Gamo, McDonald, Pepper, our great battle pack there around about the top 10. And you can see the gaps on the timing screen there, how close they were coming towards the end of the race. Same true of the next kind of groups. Damien Spinks, I think, getting 11th from Ben Breyer, James Nesbitt, Lee Partridge in 14th, Dylan Thomas, Matthew Walker, Nathaniel Coburn, Trevor Hearn, Brendan Nealon, and Mick Fisher for Coburn. Race 3 not delivering for him in the same way that race 2 did.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's just racing sometimes. But the man that did deliver across all 3 races tonight was Ray Oliver. I said I wanted to finish with 3 threes in there. Well, it went 2 better than that in the final race. I think that's his first race win, actually, that he's picked up there as well. He's been close a number of times. But, yeah, anyway, looking down the list, I mean, have a look at Brodie Watts. 1 lap off the pace. He'd be a little bit upset with that. Cam Edwards, we just talked to him just before that final race. He said, it's been slicey, it's been dicey. I've been looking for some consistency. Didn't find it in race number 3. It's just unfortunate for him. And Liam Caplice, I mean, we saw him all ends up. He was rolled and cartwheeled a number of times throughout the night. It's just, wherever there was a wheel in an odd place, apparently it was sitting next to Liam Caplice and he just happened to drive over it.
Well, that final race definitely turned it all on in the way that we were hoping. Have we got anyone
We do.
standing by who wants to have a chat with us?
Yeah, we've got Ray Oliver, we've got Kyle Ridley, we've got Lee Partridge. I believe that's Sean McKenzie, although I'll need you to confirm on that one, Dave Haynes, and Cam Edwards is still there as well. So, what are we going to kick off with Ray? You know what? Let's grab Ray and Kyle together. This is a unique thing. I love talking to teammates together, and the Frog Leap boys that know how to leapfrog is probably the best way to put it. Ray,
that's probably your worst pun I've ever heard come out of your mouth.
I've already told him off for it tonight.
Look, I got told it was the low-hanging fruit, but hey.
Mate, that wasn't low-hanging fruit. That was already in the garbage bin.
Mate, 2/3, so you got the opportunity to sort of be the leftover person standing on the side of the dance floor watching everyone else have their fun in the first 2 races. But in race number 3, you got to take home the prize lady at the end of things. Pretty good night out at the office.
I must admit, I'm actually surprised. That's the biggest understatement of the whole lot, because in practice I was nowhere. But just got my head down, and knowing Lee and a few of the other boys and the way we can actually drive and race properly with each other and use each other's help for the slipstream, that's where it all came down tonight.
Now, Kyle, how much blocking did you actually have to do to get John Merritt back into his grasp and awarding the race win? Because theoretically, I think that race was Kyle's, and you just handed it to Ray on a silver platter.
Well, I won the second race, and I said to Ray, I'll do what I can reasonably, and we'll try and get you to win this race. But this was some fun. But no, when I passed him, I'd brake maybe 2 meters earlier, take a few Ks off the apex. Nothing egregious, but just enough where they can catch a few tenths a lap. And yeah, they caught up with, I think, 2 to go, and Ray was on the inside, and I said, just go. It's yours. Go for it.
Kyle,
what happened?
Thank you. You have just given me the Ray and I bicker and give banter back and forth quite regularly whenever we're messaging each other. And Kyle Ridley handed Ray Oliver a win on a platter is right up there, and I'm never ever going to forget that one, mate. So thank you very much. Yeah, my job's done here.
Oh, trust me, it feels weird for me too to say that, but I guess every dog gets their day.
I was just going to say, I think I gave him a few GT3s in another series to Kyle this last few weeks.
Ray Oliver, 2-bit hack, can't win in his own. Thanks, Kyle. Gotcha. Thanks, Ray. Thank you very much.
Oh, somebody doesn't want to come back into the Commonwealth, eh?
No, that sounds like it's been fun, and I mean, you've been putting all of this sort of together behind the scenes as well, Ray, for a lot of people don't know. Am I correct on that, or have I been fed false information?
No, you haven't been fed false information. Cam and I work together, and we've got Dean Hunt on board as well to work behind the scenes, and it's a case of everybody working together, and a fair few of the Frog Leap boys have had input in what we've done. I mean, the original idea was mine to get all this set up and going, but I didn't have time to do the final yards because of work commitments, and Cam stepped up and took it on, and I'm very much appreciative for what Cam's done, because if Cam hadn't done what he's done, we all wouldn't be here tonight and having as much fun as we're having, and that's down to everybody's work, because we all do work, and there's plenty more behind the scenes coming up soon.
In terms of things, Ray, obviously a great night at the office. That moves you a few spots forward in terms of championship. You're just here for a casual stroll on a Wednesday night every few weeks. Championship standings not in the offing. You're just here to race V's, aren't you?
I'm just here to get a series going that everybody's happy with and everybody enjoys. I mean, there's been a lot of things in the last few months, especially from the WA side, where we don't often get a chance to do it, and it's great to bring Formula Vee Australia into it as well and go national and have something that I've followed all my life. And same with Cameron. I mean, Cameron's a state champion with Formula V in WA, so it's something that's close to both our hearts. So it was good to be able to have the opportunity to do it with everybody.
So what I just heard was you guys are the guys to talk to if I've ever thought about flying over to Perth and going for a bingo in a car that's not mine.
Oh, I think we can organise a box and some wheels.
Yeah, I'm not talking soapbox there, but can you strap a motor to it as well?
Well, it might be a motor, but it might have to be a 13.5 RC motor.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Oliver and Kyle Ridley from Frog Leap Juice Racing. Ray, do you want to give the thanks, or is this one you're going to throw? Look, Kyle gave me a win. He can do the shout-outs.
Nah, I think he's falling asleep because he did pretty much his last jet of iRacing races this morning. So it's I think he can sit this one out for that side of things. But I would like to I would like to thank everybody from the Frog Leap and all the boys, Braden and everybody, and Dino and Mike and all those guys, and all the guys that have put the behind with Juiced Energy and All Ports Gaming and Toyo Sim and the Pet Door Company and FH Creative, and also all the companies that have jumped on board with this, with CXC and Litech, and I'm going to have a mental blank and I'm going to get killed, Lux Performance and a few of the other boys, and it's just, it's great to have everybody pulling in the same direction, hopefully going forward. And thank you to Kyle for, I won't say silver plattering it, but giving us a good chance tonight.
Congratulations to both Kyle Ridley and Ray Oliver, who win one race each, albeit one had to work much, much harder for their race win than the other one. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the Frog Leap Juice guys, and you can tell the banter levels that they go to in their box. Thank you very much.
I'm going to pull his plug for next week.
Thank you very much, guys.
See ya.
Let's move on then, Scott, because we can go to our race one winner. Lee Partridge joins us. Lee, with the win in race one, second in race two, there was carnage that you managed to avoid in those first two races, and your luck runs out eventually.
Yeah, certainly did tonight, mate. It was a bit of a shocker in race three, but, have those ones. It was just, I struggled with the car for some reason. Like, I raced, obviously, in real life here at Sandown a couple of weeks ago, and I did a lot of practice sessions in it here in iRacing, but tonight I got in the car and I just couldn't keep the rear planted. I just was struggling with the rear end for some reason. And but it was good. The first couple of races was good with the guys at the front. Ray's really good to race with. Kyle was good. John, all those guys at the front. Unfortunately, I sort of turned myself around on John in the second race. And I got punted from a whole heap of cars. It caused a fair bit of carnage, but I got sort of hit straight again and was lucky enough to get going. So I sort of feel bad for hitting John. I thought I was clearing, but it was just carnage. It just sucks when that all sort of happens. But I caused a bit tonight myself, so I can't really point fingers.
It's a very magnanimous, I guess, assessment of the situation there. And race two should be a challenging one if you've come from the win in race one with some of the pace to then, be starting pretty much exactly mid-pack with that top 20 invert. And people obviously like Sandown because there was plenty of cars out tonight.
Yeah, it's a really realistic track. This, I know they all are, but to be racing the Formula Vee in real life there only a couple of weeks ago, and then to come and race it again tonight, those first two races battling with the guys out the front, that was just like the real thing. Now the gear ratios and the cars are a little bit different, 1200 to 1600, but the way the cars move around and the battle racing that you have when you've got the guys up the front, it's so realistic to the real thing. It's really cool to do.
Is championship something that weighs on your mind at all? Because we've seen it's been pretty close at stages, and again, no one has really been able to clean sweep any weekend so far. Everyone will meet a hurdle somewhere at some time.
Yeah, well, that's just evident with the reverse race two, reverse top 20 to race two. That's always going to happen. So it's really hard to get a run out in the front because you always, even if you do, you get thrown in the mid pack in that middle race, and of course that can affect your third race if you have a shocker trying to get through the field. So Yeah, I was lucky enough that I had a good race too, but then threw it away all on my own. So I didn't even need the reverse 20 to stuff it up. I managed to do it all myself. So yeah, you have one bad race per round and it sort of hurts, but yeah, everyone's in that same boat. Championship, I'm not sure where I am in the championship, to be honest. I haven't looked because I know there's still a couple of rounds to go. But if you're there or thereabouts, it's all up for grabs in the last couple of rounds. So we'll see where the points sit after this one, and might be a bit smarter, I suppose, in the next couple of rounds if it looks I'm doing pretty well. And then you start to keep an eye on who's where in the championship, of course. So that plays a big part of it as well.
Next round, Bathurst. What do you expect from these Vs? They're quite a different track to Sandown.
It is, yeah. I dare say it'll probably split up a bit, and there'll be a few battle packs. I don't think we'll all stay in one big pack, but that you just don't really know. It could all change. It only takes a bit of a drama across the top, and all of a sudden there's whoever's in front of that drama is away and running. So if there's a crash on lap 1 through the top of the hill, it's probably going to stop the whole field. That's from there on back. So try and qualify good, but that's kind of the thing with every round in this series. You just got to qualify good, and then just do the best you can in that second race. So I'll just be trying to do the same. It doesn't matter whether I'm at Quinton, Sandown, Bathurst, or around the clothesline in the backyard. I just still like racing, enjoy it no matter what. So you just sort of take the same approach everywhere you go. And I don't really have favourite tracks or non-favourite tracks. You just sort of have the same mental approach each round and see what happens.
Well, 2 good races. They can't all be winners. And we look forward to catching you next round. Anyone you're going to thank?
Oh, not really. Apart from all you guys and everyone here, it's all good fun. Thanks to you guys for putting on the show and everything that you do. That's really cool. Formula Vee Australia, obviously, for jumping on board and helping out as well. It's really cool to have somewhere that you can race online as well as the real life in these cars. So yeah, it's a good thing you've got going.
See you around.
All right, well, that was Lee Partridge. And then finally, after all the hullabaloo and all the going on that's happened here tonight, Sean McKenzie has been thrown under the bus. May, we've been hearing some stories. Now, they've been coming secondhand from David Haynes, so I trust not a single detail that came out of them. But there were words that you got a black flag at Queensland Raceway recently. Now I've been trying to sell David as the leading conspirator in this one. Who was actually at fault? What happened? And can we get it straight from the bird's mouth? From the horse's mouth. Wrong one. Horse's mouth. That one.
Well, in hindsight, I shouldn't have got that black flag, should I, David? But I blame my newborn son and my complete lack of sleep this past 7 weeks. But yeah, I went out on I had a problem with my gearbox. I was losing a bit of gearbox oil, so I had to do a top up. And David was talking to me and distracted me so much that I forgot to put my plug back in, and went out without. Well, tried to go out without me plug. Got to pit lane and was smoking, so I pulled over, figured out what it was, went out for the next session, but there was so much oil still all over my my exhaust that they gave me the black flag, and I was like, mate, it's all that oil. And they're like, all right, one more lap, and then it all cleared up, so we're all good. So David or my son, you can take your pick which one to blame. Definitely not me, though.
I'm blaming David Haynes. I don't know your son. He's too young to have done anything yet. So it's 100% for sure all David Haynes' issues. In terms of things, we were just talking to a few other drivers about the quality of the driving and what it actually races like in real life. Is this effectively the essence of what Formula V is like? And, you know, what's the feeling like? Because Queensland Raceway, not quite similar to Sandown in terms of, you know, multiple long straights with a couple of corners thrown in between.
Yeah, I wish we had Sandown instead of the paperclip, but I guess it's a little bit similar. The racing, when you're up the front, like that last race when I was working together with Ray, that's very much like real world V racing, but all the pile-ups and driving through yellow flags and a bit of the other craziness we saw, that's not so much in the real V racing, thank God, or I don't know if I'd be able to race it, I think.
In terms of things in real life, Dave claims that he makes the car go faster and the driver have more success by him sitting in the cockpit. Well, let's use you as evidence. Has there been more or less success since David Haynes has been in your cockpit?
Well, last year he went in it and I went pretty good, but we haven't started the season so far. But David, did you sit in it before or after I drove out without the plug-in? I guess that'll be the
Oh, I don't know. Maybe before.
Yeah, maybe he's bad luck. But no, it's good to have David down there. It's good to see his blue hair and helping out, and he's a good bloke. I enjoy him coming down to the racetrack.
Don't say that. Oh, no, now we're in trouble because now he's been told he's a good bloke live on air. He's going to use that. We'll have to deal with that. But thank you very much, Sean McKenzie. Congratulations to you. And are there any sponsors that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I've got a couple of sponsors for this year in my real racing, and they get to go on my car in the online world. So thanks to Dre, and also thanks to Mackenzie Roof and Plumbing down in Victoria. Both of them have come on board this year, so hopefully we get a few podiums for him in the real thing and many race wins in the virtual world.
Well, congratulations, Sean McKenzie. A couple of good results there tonight, and the season looks like you're having an absolute blast. You've moved inside the top 10 in terms of championship standings. But Dave, time for you to tell us a little bit more about what's going on the 22nd of March, which is the day after my birthday. I think this is a perfect little birthday present for me.
Expect me to write down the 21st and remember to message you, or? Well, yeah. Looking forward to round 6 of the Formula Vee Australia E-Series. We've been to almost all of the Australian tracks available on iRacing. Been to Winson, Oran Park, Sandown, etc. But there is one most famous, most holy grail of Australian racing, and it is Mount Panorama. It doesn't matter the time or the car. It's always challenging, but always rewarding for our winners. And that's where we're going to be not next Wednesday, but next round, the 22nd of March. And you'll see it live as well here on SimSpeed TV. Congratulations to our round winner, Ray Oliver, and our race winners, Kyle Ridley and Lee Partridge. We'll catch you on the 22nd for Formula Vee Australia E-Series at the Mountain.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.